Hey everybody, hope you all had a great weekend. We are back with you on To The Point. It's been it was a fantastic weekend. A lot of great sports, a lot to catch up on today. And I'm going to talk about the Masters today. Going to talk about UFC 300. That might have been the best card that I've ever watched. Watched every fight start to finish and loved every second of it. Talk a little bit of NBA towards the back end of the show because the NBA regular season is over. Playing games start tomorrow. So those are forthcoming. But I want to start today talking about the NHL because we have a big night in the NHL when it comes to seeding and when it comes to where's this going? Who's making the playoffs? Who's playing who? Thus far, we know that the Winnipeg Jets are playing the Colorado Avalanche. That is set in stone, cannot be changed, and it looks like the Winnipeg Jets are going to have home ice as the second seed in the Central Division. So that's locked in. We know the Rangers can clinch the number one seed in the NHL, the President's Trophy, and the number one seed in the Central with the victory tonight against the Ottawa Senators at Madison Square Garden. Huge game for them, their last game of the season, literally coming down to the wire because they are in a tough division with the Carolina Hurricanes. So that's on the line tonight. We know Dallas has locked up the Central. They can still win the President's Trophy. They could have the whole entire playoffs go through Dallas if things go right for them, if they win their final game, and if the Rangers lose tonight. The Maple Leafs are in, Tampa's in. But we're still waiting on certain teams to clinch, certain matchups to lock in. The Stanley Cup playoffs begin on Saturday. And here's where we stand going into tonight. This evening, the Washington Capitals, the Detroit Red Wings, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are all in action. And they're all still in playoff contention. And they all have 2 games remaining on their respective schedules. The Washington Capitals, who currently occupy the final wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference, they are hosting the Boston Bruins tonight. If the Bruins get a point in tonight's game, they will clinch the Atlantic Division for the second straight year, have home ice, and will face the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So if the Bruins win tonight, they clinch that. But the Capitals, who have 87 points, who beat the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday, need this game. Because the Capitals, Red Wings, Flyers all have 87 points. Penguins are at 86 following a loss to Boston on Saturday night. But Capitals get the Bruins in an important game. Red Wings, 2 games remaining. They're both against the Montreal Canadiens. They host Montreal tonight. They are in Montreal tomorrow to wrap up their season. They by far have the easiest remaining schedule. They do not play a playoff team. They got a huge victory against the Maple Leafs on Saturday in overtime. Red Wings. Flyers have 87 points. They are idle tonight. They get the Capitals tomorrow. Capitals tomorrow, where it could be for all the marbles. Could be pivotal. Because this is how it's going to go. If the Capitals, Red Wings win out, Philly has no mathematical chance of making the playoffs because they have 87 points, but they have played 81 games. Well, the other teams have played 80. So they need a lot of teams to lose, and they need to win tomorrow. Pittsburgh hosting the Nashville Predators. Nashville is in the playoffs. They are still playing for seeding. Nashville wants to be the first wildcard team, wants to avoid being the second wildcard team with Vegas on their heels. So Nashville, game 82 tonight. It does mean something. Penguins need to win tonight. Basically, if the Penguins lose this evening, they're screwed. They're not going to catch the Islanders. Unlikely that every one of those teams I just mentioned does not win tonight. Detroit being the number one team on the list. But the Penguins have had an incredible run. Sidney Crosby has had a top 5 nominee Hart Trophy season. As I've talked about, the heart and soul of that team, the heart and soul of that community. But the Penguins have the Predators at home tonight, and they close out in Long Island on Wednesday night. And the Islanders have won 7 of their last 8. Their only loss coming Saturday against New York in the Gimmick. And the Islanders also play tonight. They're at New Jersey. Semyon Varlamov between the pipes for the Islanders. He's been really Patrick Waugh's goaltender down the stretch here. If the Islanders win tonight, they clinch a playoff spot, and they will clinch the third seed in the Metropolitan Division with a win tonight. It would lock in that they would be playing either the Rangers or the Hurricanes. It still depends, because if the Rangers lose tonight, Hurricanes win tomorrow. Hurricanes win the Metropolitan. It is that close. If the Rangers defeat the Ottawa Senators tonight, we know it will be Carolina and the Islanders in round 1, just like it was last year. That's a lot of information to digest. I understand that. A lot of moving parts. A lot of things still to be determined. You have seeding. You have all these different things. The regular season ends on Thursday night. You have teams like Colorado, Edmonton, who still have games to play going all the way to Thursday. Vegas also plays on Thursday night in their final game. So we could have mathematical elements that last all the way to Thursday. Looking at it out west, Preds win tonight. They clinch the first wild card position. They will not be caught. Vegas will then be playing for either the third seed in the Pacific or the second wild card position. And the way it's looking, if Vegas remains the second wild card team, they will get the Dallas Stars, which will be a rematch of the conference final from last year, which would be a great series, a heavyweight series between two really good teams. Vegas starting to get healthy. Mark Stone practicing. Tomas Hertl with the overtime winner in the matinee yesterday against the Colorado Avalanche. You have Los Angeles, who has 2 games left. They got Minnesota tonight in an important game. You have both LA and Vegas with 2 games left against 2 non-playoff teams. So both, you could argue, are in good positions. There's a lot to be decided here. And there's still Edmonton. It's an outside chance, but Edmonton has 3 games left. If they win them all and the Canucks lose their final 2 games of the year, Edmonton will win the Pacific. Now, Edmonton hosting San Jose tonight, at Arizona for their final home game at Mullet Arena on Wednesday. We'll talk about that move in a minute. And then they're at Colorado on Thursday. Vancouver has the Calgary Flames tomorrow, and they are at the Winnipeg Jets on Thursday, who likely will still have something to play for, so it could get tricky, and the Flames, I'm sure, would love to play spoiler to the rival, the Vancouver Canucks. So there's still up in the air what's going to happen in the Pacific Division. This is what the NHL wants. Down to the wire, races mean something. The NBA this weekend, the final weekend of the season, there was intrigue. The Spurs beat the Nuggets on Friday, which led to OKC winning. But to me, the final couple days were a blur. And yes, you had the Masters in there, and yes, you had UFC 300 and a bunch of other marquee elements. But I think the NHL, despite the fact that I think they're going to get some first rounds that you've seen before, Edmonton, LA, which would be the third year in a row, which isn't great, to be fair. I don't need to see that series again. Vegas, Dallas, first round. Seems like two really good teams meeting in the first round, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Hurricanes, Islanders, that'd be the second straight year. I have no problem. Florida, Toronto. They met in the second round last year. Okay, well, Florida, Toronto should have done better, won the Atlantic. You won't hear that anywhere else. They'll be bitching and moaning about something else. Boston, Tampa haven't met in a while. They have some history. So it's not perfect. 1 versus 8 to me is still a better system. It's still better for the whole league. I think it definitely benefits certain teams. I think teams that lose early hate the system because they don't win in this system. It's a crutch. It's something you cry about because it's not working for you. But what I will say is you're going into the final 4 days of the season. You have games that matter. All 8 o'clock starts tonight, so you can track them all. They're going to be done before you go to bed. So you're looking at going, okay, Eastern Conference, I know where things stand. I think that's a win. I think it's a good thing for the league. Also, you get to track last couple games. Hart Trophy, Art Ross, and Matthews chasing 70 goals. And the assist totals for Kucherov and Connor McDavid. McDavid's got 99 assists. He will return to the lineup for Edmonton tonight after missing the last 3 games. He has 3 games left to get at least 1 assist. I think he'll do that. Kucherov, 2 games remaining, sitting on 98 assists on the season. Kucherov with 141 points. 3 up on Nathan McKinnon. McDavid with 130 points. He won't catch the leaders, but he'll get likely third. You have Matthews with 69 goals. Gets another one on Saturday. I thought he'd break it on Saturday, personally. Then you have Sheldon Keefe says it's a distraction. I thought it was weird dialogue after the game from Sheldon Keefe kind of complaining about Matthews being a goal scorer, chasing it. Yes, they didn't play well against Detroit. They lost the game. They're not going to get home ice. They'll be going to Florida or Boston in the first round. They have their warts. They're banged up. Yarncroc still not ready. Max Domi's banged up. You have Bobby McMahon banged up. So it's not optimal going into the playoffs for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But they weren't going to win a Stanley Cup because of Max Domi. It's about their best players. It always has been about their best players. So put up or shut up for about the 8th year in a row. And I don't want to hear it if they lose. Point blank. Win. Find a way to win. Do I think they'll do it? No. But they have a chance. But you have races for points, races for goals, races for assists. There's intrigue. Reinhardt's got 55 goals. Can he push it close to 60 in a contract year? Panarin's got 48 goals. Can he get a pair tonight to get to 50 on the season? Pasternak's got 47. Forsberg's got 47. Both have a couple games left. Braden Point's got 45. Quietly, really good season. This year, you got, so far, 16 40-goal scorers. You have Stamkos, Kreider, both with 39. So right on the line to get over it, possibly get to 19. Brady Tkachuk's got 37, so he's got a chance as well. Point getters, so far 9 players have 100 points. William Nylander, 2 games remaining, has 97. Looking to get to 100. Philip Forsberg won't get there. He's got 93. Kaprizov, 93. Sam Reinhart, 92. Quinn Hughes, a defenseman, with 91. It's superb. Crosby with 90 with a couple to play. Makar, Point, both with 89. Kachuk, after a slow start's got 86. Can he get to 90? Impressive stuff around the league. Oilers, Sharks still matters, but every game really tonight, other than Sabres, Lightning, matters. Means something in the standings, has some kind of effect, can affect other teams. So those 8 o'clock puck drops, all interesting tonight, all hold value, all have some relevance. We might not get that same result tomorrow because you might have some teams, say if the Penguins lose tonight, Detroit wins, and the Islanders win, you might look at Detroit going, okay, you're screwed. Their last game, really a meaningless game. If the Flyers see teams win tonight, they'll play the Capitals. It won't mean a whole lot. Capitals, it will if they can find a way to win. If the Bruins win tonight, tomorrow's game against the Senators, really not all that important. But tonight, great slate of games, important in the standings, lots to play for. The other big news from over the weekend in the NHL, the Arizona Coyotes are leaving the desert. After years of suffering, bad ownership, bad arenas, bad players, just overall a bad experience in a beautiful place, which is Arizona, the Arizona Coyotes are moving to Salt Lake City, Utah. We talked earlier in the year that Salt Lake wanted to get in. Their ownership was writing letters to the NHL. We want to have an expansion team. We want a team right now. Here's what's interesting to me about this move. The NHL is buying the Coyotes from their current ownership. They're basically taking it over. And they're going to sell it to the owners in Salt Lake for $1.2 billion, which is far less than an expansion fee. It's a good deal for this team. Here's my only thing. If I'm a new team, I want to bring in my own players. Logan Cooley's great. Clayton Keller, good player. Matthias McKelly, Dylan Guenther, promising. They have some good guys out of college who might be eligible to play for them next year, depending on where they want to go after this NCAA season. I don't think the Coyotes are a sinking ship talent-wise. They have some Lawson Krause is a great player. They have pieces. But seeing the success of Vegas and Seattle, yes, they'll miss the playoffs 2 out of 3 years, but what I will say, they did get to a second round last year. I would want to pick my own team. I'd want to hire a really smart GM, and I'd go, okay, we want an expansion draft, build a team that can compete sooner rather than later, and go from there. That would be what I would want. Now, if you're an owner, you got to spend less money. You're bringing in a team. You have players already. You have a head coach who is reportedly really well regarded by the team. He's coaching for the second straight year at the Men's World Hockey Championships. So he's got some pedigree. And Andre Tourney. But that wouldn't be my cup of tea. Wouldn't be my initial love for this. Now, it didn't work in Arizona. I don't think they should go back to Arizona down the line. Doesn't work. I don't know why it really doesn't work. I think if they picked a better location, it might. Arizona is a beautiful place. You could tell me to live in Arizona the rest of my life tomorrow. I'd happily do it. The weather alone would have me hooked. Salt Lake City as a market. Utah Jazz. They have an ECHL team. darkness, jazz music, and the Mormon religion. That's what I know about Salt Lake City, Utah. And mountains. And reportedly, because the NBA All-Star Game was there a couple years ago, and I listened to podcasts about it, the bars close quite early. So not really a nightlife. A lot of churches, a lot of Mormons, missionary work. I'm going to start off by saying this. There's nothing wrong with what I just said. You want to do missionary work, you want to be a Mormon, fill your boots. I have no problem with any religion. But when I talk about global appeal, and I say, hey, there's going to be an all-star game, hey, there's going to be a game, your favorite players on the road, let's go watch them in Arizona or Salt Lake. Nobody can tell me Salt Lake's going to be picked by anybody other than a Mormon or a person who really likes darkness. It's not a harsh opinion, it's just a correct opinion. That you might think, oh, they intertwine. They might intertwine. But locally, the Avenir Center. The Avenir Center is a beautiful rink. We got the World Juniors, Prospects games, past couple years. Fantastic. However, it's not as successful. You don't get as many people if Moncton didn't fix the downtown area, made it a vibe, made it a beautiful place to hang out, to have drinks before games, have drinks after the games, have stuff to do, axe throwing, restaurants, that beautiful rink just out, the beautiful little ice surface outside of the arena, stuff to do. Part of it. There are markets that will watch hockey just because they love hockey. Toronto, Edmonton, Vancouver, New York, Chicago. But you'll have your diehard fans in these markets. But even Winnipeg, a Canadian market with fuck all else to do in Winnipeg on a good team for a number of years, are struggling to get people into the arena. And I hear Salt Lake and they're fired up about it, but Salt Lake doesn't scream to me hockey. It doesn't scream to me vibrancy. Quebec City, I hear that all the time. Why aren't they going to Quebec? Why aren't they going to Quebec? The Canadian dollar sucks. Thanks, Trudeau. That's a part of it. If you think it isn't, you're wrong. My sister went to the United States a couple days ago. She wanted to get $500 American out of the bank. It was $720 Canadian. That's our exchange rate right now. Our dollar is shit. So you have to pay the players in American money, but you're making money in Canadian money by selling concessions, by selling tickets, all these different things. And yes, you're making money because it's Quebec, just for instance, but it's not that easy. You take a hit, you got to sell things for a more jacked up price because you're not getting as good a price as you would in the United States. Also, Quebec is not the easiest people to deal with over the course of human history. Quebec wants to create their own country every third year. They want to be solo. They want to leave Canada, but then they realize they can't do it, so they have to come back with their tail between their legs and accept Canada for who we are, the fucked up piece of heaven that we have here. That's why Quebec City, they'll always be in the mix. They'll have to throw a Canadian team in there. But I don't think Quebec City, I don't think another team in Ontario are close to being considered. Because you have these American markets that will pay the money, despite the fact that the market might be edgy. I'll go as far as to say, I believe that a team will be back in Atlanta before there's another Canadian NHL team. I'll make another prediction for you. The next expansion franchise, which will happen say in the next 5 years, it'll be in Atlanta. It won't be Houston. The Atlanta Thrashers will return to the NHL. Maybe it won't be the Thrashers, rebrand. But the next expansion franchise in the NHL, now that Salt Lake has been scooped up, will be Atlanta for the third time, trying to make it work. Not Houston, I don't think, and not Quebec City. Unless this country can get its shit together and make it more pleasing and more viable. Because it's not just about ticket sales for the league. They clearly, by keeping the team in Arizona, by going back to Winnipeg, by watching San Jose games, they don't really care if the rink looks half empty. It's about the markets, the money that you can make in that market, things, of that matter. There's a reason the Leafs might be the most popular team in the NHL. Well, nay, they are. Why are they never on ESPN? Ratings don't count. Canadian team. There's so many blocks that come in by putting them on the marquee event. Sometimes they have to. Sometimes they have to put McDavid on these games. But they don't want to because it doesn't benefit them at all to do it. Sure, it might grow the game, but you're already you're in deep to a television contract. So if you're ESPN, you've already paid the money. Why do this? We're trying to maximize our return. I don't mean to have a business class today, but I just thought it's interesting. I've heard people talk about it. I thought about it myself. But Salt Lake City. The Salt Lake City Fighting Mormons. That's my pitch for a team name. I doubt they go with that one. But I think it's catchy. It's got a ring to it. The Fighting Mormons. We'll see. But congratulations to Salt Lake. You got an NHL team. University of Denver won the NCAA championship this weekend. Upsetting the always dangerous Boston College with Cutter Gauthier and Ryan Leonard and Will Smith. Great team. Well, after that game and losses from BU and other schools, what we've seen is a number of high-quality NCAA players turning pro. Lane Hudson, great player at BU, 50-point season as a defenseman, the best puck mover in NCAA. You could argue the best American defenseman outside the NHL right now. He signed. He'll make his NHL debut tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. Great moment for him. He turned pro. Gavin Brindley, another guy who played World Juniors, Michigan forward, 34th overall pick in the 2023 NHL entry draft, 25 goals, 28 assists in 40 games. He's joining Columbus. He'll make his NHL debut in the coming days. Cutter Gauthier signed his deal with the Anaheim Ducks. If you recall, with Cutter Gauthier, didn't want to sign in Philly. They traded him earlier in the season. Now he's turning pro after his bold claims in the NCAA tournament game. He should play before the season's over as well. So that's really the NHL update. Big games tonight. Players turning pro. San Jose has locked in the best odds for the 2024 NHL draft. Chicago, second best odds, followed by the Anaheim Ducks and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Those are your top four. San Jose desperately needs Macklin Celebrini. Great year. Hobey Baker Award winner as a freshman. And a couple months until we get to the draft, about a month until the draft lottery. So that'll be a big event for teams. That'll be live normally during the second round before the drop of the puck. So that'll be in a couple weeks. But yeah, the regular season's winding down. Things to be discovered, matchups to start to look at. We'll do a preview later in the week of the Stanley Cup playoffs, so buckle in for that. But the NHL moves on with huge games tonight with massive stakes. Let's talk NBA for a minute. NBA regular season is over. The San Antonio Spurs and Victor Wembanyama, who's going to win Rookie of the Year, who I think will be one of the 3 final nominees for Defensive Player of the Year in his first season. They really threw everything into a twister by coming back from 20 points Friday night, defeating the defending champions Denver Nuggets, which led to Denver losing, OKC winning their last 2 games, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, getting the 1 seed in the Western Conference. Massive shift. OKC now awaits an opponent, as does Denver, with the play-in games, which will commence tomorrow. But getting that 1 seed, playing great down the stretch, being consistent all year long. I believe the MVP is either going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Nikola Jokic. Jokic is the best player in the NBA, but it doesn't mean Shai won't win it. Jokic has already won it twice. He's won a Finals MVP. He's an NBA champion. Shai's the new kid on the block, new superstar, getting that team to a 1 seed, implementing Chet Holmgren, him playing all 82 games, which is incredible, coming off a severe foot injury and missing an entire season. I would give my vote to Nikola Jokic just because I think he's the best player in the NBA. He proved it again this year. But if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets votes, I have no problem with it. Incredible handle, effortlessly can get to the rim whenever he wants, makes big shots, not afraid of the moment. The kid is just a stud, and he's Canadian, so that doesn't hurt him as well. But you had some results in the NBA that were certainly interesting. The Lakers climbed all the way to the 8th seed, being in 10th at one point, looking to get the 7th seed. But with the results, they get the Pelicans tomorrow night in the 7 versus 8 matchup. The winner of that game will meet Denver in the first round. Lakers and Nuggets played in the conference finals last year. The Lakers were swept. But Anthony Davis has played 75 games this year. LeBron James doesn't look like he's ever aging. D'Angelo Russell shot over 40% from 3 from the All-Star break on. He's been great. Austin Reeves is a clutch guy for the Lakers in more ways than one. And they're a dangerous team. I don't think they can win the NBA championship. I don't think they're deep enough. I don't think they have enough weapons. But could they give Denver a go? Yes. Here's the thing. The Lakers should want to lose tomorrow's game. I'm not saying they're going to throw it. They shouldn't think about throwing it because you never know. Because then you have to play another game and it's winning you're in type scenario. But to me, if the Lakers got the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round, I think the Lakers would beat them. I just view OKC as too small. I don't think their wings will be able to take advantage of the Lakers as much as, say, the Nuggets. Nuggets, big, physical team. Jokic, the best player on the floor. If you can double up on Shai, yes, you have Jalen Williams. Yes, you have Josh Giddey. You have different shooters that can make it rain for OKC. But the Lakers have that playoff experience. OKC is a very young group. I just believe they have more options. They have a better chance of winning that series. While I think they'll win, they didn't win any games against the Nuggets last year. I think they at least get one this year. I favor them in a much bigger way against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I think they'll win tomorrow night, the Lakers. And I'll look at that line for you all here on that game. Lakers-Pelicans in New Orleans, I might add. Let's see here. Lakers are a 1-point favorite on the road going into tomorrow night's game. It's clear the books like the Lakers. I like the Lakers to win the game as well. But they're a road favorite right now. The 9-10 matchup, this one's single elimination. So Lakers-Pelicans winner get the 7th seed. The loser of that game will play the winner of the Warriors and Sacramento in the 9 versus 8 matchup. And then the winner of that game gets the final playoff spot. The loser is eliminated for good. Golden State, crazy season. Draymond Green suspended a few times. Chris Paul, inconsistent. Klay Thompson off the bench, then back in the starting lineup, then shooting poor, then shooting fantastic. Steph Curry playing more minutes this year than he had in the past 5 during the regular season. Barely getting to this point, being the 10 seed in the Western Conference. They get Sacramento, who was a great story last year, who lost to the Warriors in the first round. They get a chance to have revenge. They lost Game 7 on their home floor. They will get an opportunity to light the beam tomorrow night in front of the Warriors in the second half of the doubleheader. The Warriors know how to play the Kings. They have their number. Certain teams just win against Sacramento always dominates the Lakers. It always seems to happen. Golden State can beat Sacramento. Sacramento without Kevin Huerter, without Malik Monk. They're just not the same team. And while I think Golden State is flawed, they are not a great team. They're an old team hanging on, trying to stay relevant, trying to stay in the playoff mix. They are no threat to go deep. I'm not even sure they win the 9-8 matchup to get into the playoffs, but I do believe they'll beat Sacramento tomorrow. Like the Lakers, they are a road favorite. I hate taking 2 road favorites. Goes against every fiber of my being, although I'm not betting on either game, just telling you what I'd do if I was betting. But I like Golden State and I like the Lakers both to win tomorrow night. Out east, the Celtics clinched the 1 seed in about January. 16-game lead on the second-seeded New York Knicks, my Knicks, who got the 2nd seed because they won their final couple games. Milwaukee's in shambles. Giannis Antetokounmpo reports today may not be available for Game 1 in their series against the Indiana Pacers. Doc Rivers has not been a good addition coaching-wise. That team just doesn't look connected. So the Knicks get the 2nd seed, which all I've heard from the media is, it's such a bad matchup. Why would you want the 2nd seed? First of all, I don't think the Knicks should be afraid of either of the teams that they might play for a couple of reasons. They could either get the Heat or the Sixers. They lost to the Heat last year in the 2nd round. A series I believe they think they should have won, which they should have. Jalen Brunson is better than he was last year. Mitchell Robinson is back. OG Anunoby is on the floor. They got a good bench. The Knicks have a good team. Yes, no Julius Randle, which hurts. and I don't think they can get to an NBA Finals without Julius Randle. But do I think they can beat the Sixers or the Heat? I do, in the first round. In particular, home floor advantage, Spike Lee, Knicks faithful, going crazy. Miami Heat, who were in the same position last year, are heading to Philadelphia to play a wounded Joel Embiid, who did not play in the season finale yesterday, and the Sixers. Miami's been inconsistent as hell all year. Jimmy Butler said he was going to turn it on, never really did. Their bench, not as deep as it was last year. Tyler Hero, what can he give you? He was injured for most of the year. Can he stay on the floor? Duncan Robertson, Haywood Highsmith, Jaquez Jr., Terry Rozier. I don't love their team. Bam plays Embiid quite well, so that's interesting. I do think Tyrese Maxey is better than any Heat player at this point. I don't even know if it's that close. It's a 4.5-point spread. I do think it's a close game, but I'm going with the Sixers to win this game to get the 7 seed. Sixers against the Knicks in the first round. Embiid at the Garden. The boos will be out. That series will be interesting. I got Sixers, and I take them minus the 4.5 as well. 9-10 game. This game to me is the worst out of the bunch. Atlanta Hawks, Chicago Bulls. Bulls are always in these playing games. They beat the Raptors in the 9-10 last year. They lost to the Heat in the 8-9. Hawks are getting Trae Young back. He played this past weekend. They've been better. They were better without Trae Young on the floor, quite frankly. Bulls, DeRozan, Vucevic, Patrick Williams, Kobe White. I think we're getting the same exact script. I think the Bulls beat the Hawks, and I think the Heat then beat the Bulls in the 8-9 game. And we'll get Celtics Heat in the first round, which will make every person in Boston sweat. So while the Heat aren't a great team and they aren't as good as they were in past years, all true, you know they're afraid of Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, and putting it together just in time to defeat the Celtics, who have been the juggernaut of the Eastern Conference all year long. Other first round matchups that we know of. 5 seed Orlando playing 4 seed Cleveland. Interesting to say the least. I like Orlando. Banchero's been a great player since coming into the league. The Wagners, fun. Cole Anthony off the bench. They got talent down there. They play hard. I don't think they ever expected to be a 5 seed in the Eastern Conference this year, but here they are. So credit to them. They get the Cavs, who are falling apart. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, never on the floor together, it seems. Mobley, Allen combination doesn't really work, in particular in the playoffs. They lost 7 of the last 10 down the stretch, including losing yesterday. I got the Magic winning the series. You can get them at plus money. I think the Magic are just a better team overall. I think they're more connected. I think this series goes long. It could be a 7-game series. But I don't think Cleveland has it all together. I think they know they're going to move Donovan Mitchell in the summer somewhere, probably Miami. But that's on the forefront. The team's not connected. It's imploding. I got the Magic advancing to the second round. Pacers, Bucks. Bucks are imploding. Giannis, doubtful for Game 1, reports this afternoon. Chris Middleton, inconsistent, not always on the floor. Damian Lillard hasn't been great. Has about one really good game a week. Brook Lopez, you got to love him. Portis gives you energy. Doc Rivers' playoff history has been nothing short of terrible since 2008. So, while the Pacers acquired Siakam, and they have Tyrese Halliburton, who's been really banged up in the second half of the year and hasn't been very consistent. Pacers have their problems. Are they big enough? Can they deal with Milwaukee? Milwaukee lost in the first round last year. Since that point, they've never really been the same team. They haven't been that connected. And that's why I'm picking the Pacers to upset them. Another longer series. If Giannis can't play home games early, puts more and more pressure to win on the road. I think the East is wide open. There's one great team, and that's Boston. The way it has been all year. They've been dominant from jump. I think Boston will get to the NBA Finals pretty easily. I don't think they'll lose 2 games in a series en route to get there. Could be wrong, but we'll see. But I got Bucks losing and Cavs losing, both on their home court. Out west, Suns, Timberwolves. Suns played the Timberwolves yesterday. They beat them by 25. Suns are 7-3 in their last 10. Bradley Beal shooting over 50%, over 40% from 3, post All-Star break. Kevin Durant's healthy. Bradley Beal's healthy. Book's healthy. Grayson Allen was the best three-point shooter in basketball this year, and he just got an extension, 4 years, $70 million this morning. Bol off the bench, like him. Nurkic has his problems, but you're playing the T-Wolves, who Gobert has been known as a playoff liability. Karl Anthony Towns has played 1 game coming back from injury. I love Anthony Edwards, but they double and they make it very hard for him to be effective in the matchup. They know how to play Minnesota. Phoenix, up and down all year, but I think they're peaking at the right time. I think they're playing better basketball. They're the healthier team. They have more going for them. I have the Suns upsetting the Timberwolves, another road team winning. They're going to be a crazy year for the NBA in that matter. But Phoenix beating Minnesota, just having the slight edge defensively, a couple different matchup things. I still think Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, those guys have a little bit left in their legs. Minnesota's a team on the come up, but I don't think they'll have enough here. And that leaves the Mavericks and the Clippers. Mavericks, another team who come into the playoffs riding high. Luka and Kyrie look like they're having the time of their lives. Never had more fun playing together. Can give the ball to each other, can score, can assist the ball. They can do it all. Added scores like PJ Washington. Have depth off the bench. Good shooting. I like Dallas. But you have the Clippers, who are an old veteran team, who are moving into a new arena next season. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Norman Powell, who have been together a while and haven't won anything. Steve Ballmer promised championships, promised success. They haven't gotten to a conference final. I think top to bottom, the Clippers are a better team than the Mavericks, but the Mavericks have 2 special players at guard that can make anything happen. Number of years ago, Luka got the Dallas Mavericks pretty deep into the playoffs, if you recall. Upsetting that series against the Phoenix Suns. And one of the bigger upsets in recent memory. Battling his way all the way there with a team that I think is better now than it was then. The Clippers are a slight favorite in Game 1. The Clippers are a slight favorite. The Mavericks are now the favorite to win the series on FanDuel, minus 118. Clippers at plus 100, so basically a coin flip. I agree with that. I think it is tough. Because of the wings and the way the Clippers can play defense, and I know you have Harden and you have lots of problems because they're older, you can have injuries, inconsistencies. I'm going to pick the Clippers to win that series, to edge out the Mavericks. Could go either way. 7-game series. Should be fantastic basketball. But I have the Clippers winning that one. In the other series, Magic plus 156, Cavs minus 186. Bucks minus 154, Pacers plus 130. So very close. No real huge margins here. Timberwolves are a underdog to the Suns to win the series on FanDuel. So that's interesting. But the playing games begin tomorrow night. Lakers, Pelicans, Warriors, Sacramento. Wednesday, Heat, 76ers, Hawks, Bulls. So we'll be watching. We'll recap the start of the play-in tournament Wednesday here on the program. Let's move to Augusta, where the world number one, the betting favorite, the best golfer in the world, Scottie Scheffler, won his second green jacket yesterday afternoon. He was surgical. He started off with struggles and said, you know what, enough of this. Enough of playing with my food. I'm going to go out there, shoot a 68, 4 under on a Sunday. Really great score with the conditions. Birdieing 9, 11, 12, and 13 to push it out of range. Incredible ball striking. Never putting himself in bad positions to lose a stroke, while everybody around him imploded. Colin Morikawa, who was in the final group with Scottie Scheffler, shot 2 over for the day. Max Homa, who was in the penultimate group, shot 1 over. Looking at the guys, Bryson DeChambeau seemed to get worse as the weekend went on, as I predicted. +1 on Friday, +2 on Saturday, +1 on Sunday. He ultimately finished tied for 6th with his fellow Live Golf teammate Cameron Smith. Schauffele +1 yesterday. Tyrrell Hatton had a great round at -3. Zalatoris -3. But Scottie Scheffler just was dialed in, never panicked. Had some moments on Saturday where on the 10th hole he bogeyed, double bogeyed 11th. You had Hogard who took the lead at that point. When he double bogey, lost it. Homa couldn't make a birdie. Scheffler stayed with it. And even after a subpar day where he shot 1 under par, he still had the lead. And he went into Sunday and never really lost control of the golf tournament. Talk about guys who just fell off. I mean, Hogard finished tied for 16th. He had the outright lead on Saturday. You had, guys like Cam Davis, who had the outright lead on Saturday. He finished tied for 12. The conditions were extremely difficult. The wind was blowing everything, sand in people's faces. You couldn't see anything. But Scottie Scheffler stayed calm and did what he had to do. And he is the best golfer in the world. And he's kind of corny. And he's not the most interesting dude. But it doesn't matter. He makes a pile of money. He wins every big golf tournament. His last 4 appearances, win, tied for second, win. Over $12 million. Now has 2 green jackets. 2 majors, both at the Masters. This is a course he's figuring out. He's only 27 years old. He will have more majors to come at different tournaments, I have to believe. In particular, if his putting stays the way that it is right now, because every other aspect of his game is the best in the world. And the weekend was interesting because, Colin Morikawa is a great player, but he finished 7 strokes off the lead. Really wasn't it. So did Max Homa. Cam Smith, 9 strokes off the lead. Jon Rahm, the defending champion, finished the tournament +9. Shot a 76 twice. Jon Rahm never shot under par in one round. The second best golfer in the world was no good. Brooks Koepka, +9. Never shot a round under par the entire weekend. Talking guys who win majors, who are in the thick of things, you had Victor Hovland, Brian Harman, who won a major last year, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, all missing the cut. All shooting terrible. But Scottie Scheffler stayed with it. Credit to Ludwig Aberg, who finishes solo second, shot 3 under on a Sunday. He had a great golf tournament. One over on Thursday, 3 under, 2 under, 3 under, finishes -7. Solo second. He never panics. Always has a smile. This was his first ever appearance at Augusta National. He's 23 years old. This is his first ever major appearance. There's so many guys who say he's going to win a major. I would have to say the same about Max Homa. But I'm actually more confident in Ludwig Aberg. So I just think this dude's ball striking, his ability to come up in clutch moments, he is that guy. Just read his first time at the course, and he played it beautifully. Guys had such terrible days that Tommy Fleetwood, who shot 300 on a Sunday, finishes tied for 3rd. He used a caddy at Augusta National for the week who knew the course. He ultimately finishes inside the top 5, which I predicted, which is a win for yours truly. I had Joaquin Niemann winning the tournament, which he did not. That was a loss. He finished +4. Shot a 78 on on Friday, which was no good. He was no good. We had Cantlay +4, Fitzpatrick +4, Niemann +4, McIlroy +4, Keegan Bradley +4, Jason Day. These are all major winners. Corey Connors finished +7. Tiger Woods, of all the players who made the cut, was worse with +16. Shot an 82 for 10 over par on Saturday. Really struggled. 5 over par on Sunday, but he did walk 4 rounds. He didn't look unhealthy. Those first 2 days, he had shots to shoot better rounds. He didn't have to be 1 over, but he was. I saw positive signs But he's 48 years old. He's never going to win another major. There's too many good players now. I love that he still has that will to compete, that still wants to go out there. He has no reason to. He has no business being out there after everything that he's accomplished in his career. But he's out there. And kudos to him. A Tiger making the cut, great story. Vijay Singh at 61 years old making the cut, great story. Phil Mickelson at 53 making the cut. Ozabal, 58, making the cut. Nate Shipley, the only amateur, makes the cut, then gets to play with Tiger on a Sunday, and he shoots one over par. Pretty incredible stuff from the kid, the low amateur, for the tournament. So it was a fun golf tournament. I like seeing the players struggle, have to deal with adversity. That's normally how the U.S. Open is. It's just the way Augusta National played this weekend. A little over a month, we will have the PGA Championship, which is at the Valhalla Golf Club in Kentucky. It's May 16th to 19th. But before that, this weekend, RBC Heritage in Harbortown Golf Links, South Carolina. I love this event. Beautiful golf course. It's an elevated event, so all the best players in the world are going. I don't know if Scottie Scheffler will be there because his wife Meredith is due any day. But you'll have Rory, you'll have the best players in the world are going to be there. Then in May, Byron Nelson, Wells Fargo Championship at Quail Hollow. PGA, end of May. It's moved up this year. May 30th to June 2nd, the RBC Canadian Open in Hamilton. So those events are all forthcoming, but the first major of the year goes to the best golfer in the world, Scottie Scheffler, and congrats to him. UFC 300. Advertised as a once-in-a-lifetime card. Anything can happen. Banger fight after banger fight. And after all the hype, it delivered and some. In my mind, the greatest card of my lifetime. Fantastic fights, incredible finishes, incredible moments. You saw the past, you saw the present and future of mixed martial arts. You had Mark Coleman hand out the BMF. Israel Adesanya in attendance. George St. Pierre was there. Then you had a guy in the main event, Alex Poatan Pereira. Alex is a special man. A guy who was a two-time kickboxing world champion at two different weight classes. Then leaves kickboxing to pursue MMA. And in under 3 years, he's won 2 world championships at 2 different weight classes. And he's defeated 5 former world champions. He added to that list on Saturday, knocking out Jamal Hill in the first round in a crazy sequence where he gets hit in the groin with a kick. Herb Dean, the great referee, the best referee in the UFC for my money, is going to step in. Alex waves him off, says, "I'm good." They keep going. Less than 10 seconds later, Poatan lands a deadly left hook, drops Jamal Hill. The fight is over. First round finish. Defends the belt after winning against Prohaska. not taking much damage, and doing what he said he was going to do. He's a machine. His walkouts are interesting. His movements are interesting. The way he goes about his business, he's all professional. He avenges the loss that his mentor, Glover Teixeira, took to Jamal Hill back in January of 2023. It was a special moment for him. He said he wanted to fight Sao Paulo, Brazil on May 4th. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, but it doesn't matter. He gets another victory. He adds to his list of accolades. For Alex, I think a move to heavyweight down the line makes sense, because I think he wants to try to win 3 different world titles, 3 different weight classes, which would be something special. And I do think he'll get the opportunity to do that, just not right now. If I'm Alex, he said he wants to fight Magomed Ankalaev. I think that's the fight to make. Ankalaev's really good. He's been in there with some of the best. He's had weird results, a draw. The Johnny Walker fight was ended with an eye poke, but then he got a nasty knockout back in January. Alex Magomed for the light heavyweight title in Abu Dhabi in October, UFC 308 pay-per-view, would be fantastic. I think it makes a lot of sense. Those 2 guys, both big punchers. Ankalaev can fight in Abu Dhabi because he's a Dagestani fighter. He would be the favorite. But I think Alex is such a star that you can put him anywhere. He's one of the biggest stars in the UFC right now. He doesn't speak a lick of English. Doesn't matter. He's a massive superstar. Every time he gets in the cage, he's making the light heavyweight division relevant again, and that's fantastic for the sport. Co-main event, you had 2 Chinese fighters fighting for a world title against each other for the first time in UFC history, and this fight was crazy as well. In the first round, Zhang Weili, really, she had her ups and downs against Yang Xiaonan. Yang Xiaonan looked good on the feet. Zhang Weili then gets a rear naked choke around the neck of Yan, puts her out cold, but by the time she was out cold, the bell had gone, the round was over. Yan getting back up to her feet, wobbly, could hardly get onto her corner. They had to wake her up, and to her credit, she fought back. She fought a decent start to that second round, but then you had massive, basically a 10-8 in the second round from Zhang Weili. Huge shot after shot. I thought Jason Herzog was going to call the fight 2 separate times just with nasty punches, but Yan kept rolling around, kept fighting, kept staying in it. Third round, she has momentum. She wins the third round, landing big shots. Zhang Weili looks exhausted because of all that she did in the first 2 to try to put her out of there. But to Zhang Weili's credit, championship medal. 4th and 5th round, she basically controls Yan on the ground, trying for submissions, control time, dominating the position. She wins the fight 4 rounds to 1, retains her title, her second straight title defense. And to me, she's the best female fighter in the UFC right now, any weight class, and we'll talk about Kayla Harrison. But Zhang Weili defends her belt. Incredible fight. Twice I thought she might have her out. For me, the next fight is Zhang Weili and Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez has had problems with injuries, but every time she's in the cage, she's literally undefeated as a professional mixed martial artist. Zhang Weili needs a new challenge. Yang Xiaonan was good. Tatiana Suarez would provide a different sort of test. I love that fight. They should book that for later in the year. Zhang Weili is a star. People care about her. Tatiana Suarez dates Patchy Mix, who's a great martial artist in Bellator. So they're kind of a power couple thing. They have some cachet. I would be doing that. The first title fight of the night was for the BMF title. Max blessed Holloway against Justin, the highlight, Gaethje. I was worried about Max Holloway going into this fight because he was moving up in weight classes. He's fighting one of the strongest punchers, one of the most dominant, one of the just most destructive forces in UFC history in Justin Gaethje. But what I forgot about Max Holloway is that Max Holloway is one of the greatest mixed martial artists to ever do it. Former featherweight champion, and yes, he lost 3 times to Alexander Volkanovski, but that tells you just how good Alexander Volkanovski is. How elite Alex Volkanovski is. Because Max Holloway was controlling the fight on the feet, fighting his fight like he does every time. Landing jabs, overhand rights, not taking huge blows from Justin Gaethje, keeping him out of range. Taking leg kicks, but seemingly being okay, never showing weakness. He knocked down Gaethje in the 3rd round. And to me, the 4th round was close, but I had it 4-0 for Max Holloway. He was never in danger of losing the fight. Justin Gaethje knew going into the 5th, his corner was telling him, you need a finish. You need to get him out of here. And by the way, Max Holloway had never been finished in his UFC career. So easier said than done. In the 5th round, Max was really putting it on him. Putting on a show. And then with 10 seconds left in the round, he says to Gaethje, let's meet in the middle and let's just throw. Reckless abandon, throwing punches, see what you got. Max giving Justin a chance because it is for the baddest motherfucker title and he lived up to it. They're both throwing and Holloway lands an overhand right with 1 second left in the 5th and final round and drops Gaethje limp. His body falls over. Holloway gets his 2nd straight KO and becomes the BMF champion. The craziest sequence I've ever seen. You could argue it's the best knockout in UFC history because of the time, because of the place, the way he went about doing it. It was anarchy. It was crazy. And I loved every second of it. Max blessed Holloway has won 3 fights in a row. Was the star of the night. Won performance of the night. Won knockout of the night. $600,000 in bonus for Max Holloway. Probably made over $1 million on Saturday fighting. With that victory, with that moment, the way he did it, he has now earned any title he wants, and I think he's going to challenge Ilia Topuria. He'll go back down to 145 pounds. Holloway versus Topuria later in 2024. Because Evolov, undefeated, yes, looks good. You haven't done that. Ortega, great win against Yair Rodriguez. Okay, go beat another guy. Holloway's a legend. He's a former champion. That fight, if it's in Spain, will sell tickets. It will go crazy. He proved he is that guy. He said it in the cage. I'm that guy, and he damn well is. What a performance from Max Blessed Holloway. And I can't wait to see him and Ilia Topuria fight later in the year. Arman Tsarukyan, Charles DuBronx, Oliveira. Another great fight. This is probably the fight I was looking forward to the most on the card. First round, DuBronx, early on, a minute in, gets Tsarukyan in a guillotine. It's in deep. It looks like Tsarukyan might go out. He's in deep, deep trouble, in particular because the grappling of Charles Oliveira is so good. But he fighting the hands, pushing his arms down. He escapes out of the position. And then to close the round, he has control. He's landing big shots on the ground. He looks like he's dead to rights. He survives. Second round, he controls it. On the ground, some ground and pound shots, and look good. Third round, kind of similar. Doesn't want to stay on the feet with Charles. Good idea. Towards the end of the third round. Last 45 seconds. Charles Oliveira gets a Darce locked in on Tsarukyan. He had it locked in until the clock went 0. Tsarukyan never tapped out, didn't give in, and he ultimately wins the fight via split decision. Biggest win of his career to date, defeats a former champion, and he called for a title fight with Islam Makhachev, who he's fought before. It was then reported he was offered a title fight backstage to fight Islam on June 1st, which is a very quick turnaround, but he said no. Said today on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, he wants a full training camp. He wants to be prepared for Islam. I don't blame him. Islam's a tricky opponent. That could be another fight to headline Abu Dhabi in October, but instead Dustin the Diamond Poirier gets the title shot in Newark on June 1st. So Islam versus Dustin on June 1st to headline that card. I think Tsarukyan's next with the Gaethje loss, with the Oliveira loss. But impressive win for him, dodging a very tricky and dangerous opponent. Credit to Arman. Opening fight of the main card, Bo Nickel, Cody Brundage. Bo Nickel is the future of the UFC. That's why they had him on the main card. He had the longest fight of his career, went into the second round. He dominated the entire time. Ultimately gets a submission victory. And he continues to move up, continues to look impressive. Went to the second round, was fine. I think they'll give him another point, not yet ranked. Although he did call for Alexander Fluffy Hernandez, which would be fun. Because Fluffy's a great fighter, won his last fight, but I do think he's booked. So it'll be tricky. But Bo Nickel, another victory. You knew he was going to win the fight. He was the biggest favorite in the history of the UFC, any event ever. Gets the victory. Prelims, Yuri Prochazka. 0 fight IQ, but crazy. Crazy fight with Rakic, keeping his hands low, having his legs kicked to hell from Rakic, but he kept coming at him. He kept trying to get Rakic to engage him in anarchy, and ultimately Rakic did. Second round, he starts throwing crazy. Starts throwing with reckless abandon. Gets a huge shot on Rakic, gets a couple. He starts stumbling, gets to the ground. Prochazka starts landing ground and pound. He gets the victory. Back in the win column. 0 fight IQ, just crazy, strong strength, can find a way to win. I think Yuri Prochazka, Jamal Hill, their next fight is the way to go. I think it's a great fight. Both guys, 2 different directions. But they were going to fight way back when. You finally get that fight to settle it. Winner of that fight, next number 1 contender for the light heavyweight title. Aljamain Sterling dominates Calvin Kattar in his featherweight debut. Probably the worst fight of the evening. Kattar was just a no-show, not really Aljo's fault. He moves up to a new weight division. Looked huge, looked confident, looked comfortable. Won all 3 rounds. Called out Brian Ortega. I like that fight. Aljo can do it. I think he can fight at this weight class. We'll see. Kayla Harrison making her UFC debut, making her 135-pound debut. Former 170 at judo, 155 in the PFL. now 135-pounder. Dominated Holly Holm from start to finish. Controlled both rounds. Massive ground and pound in the first, landing huge shots, busting her open a little bit. Second round, working her way to get her onto her back, getting the rear naked choke. And I don't think she couldn't have looked better. From rehydrating, getting back up, she said she was over 160 pounds walking into the cage. She looked huge. She looked so much bigger than Holly, so much stronger than Holly. And she gets a massive victory. Could fight for the title next. She said today she'd like to fight Juliana Pena for the title for the interim belt. I love that fight for International Fight Week. Put that on now that McGregor and Michael Chandler's been announced. You can have a title fight on that card still. That one would be great. But Kayla Harrison made the weight. She looked great. She was dominant. She's a star and she's a problem for the bantamweight women. Diego Lopez is a superstar. Another first-round knockout of Sadiq Youssef. This is a first-round knockout of a ranked fighter. He will join the rankings this week. He's calling for Movsar Evelev, which that was his first UFC fight. He took it on 5 days' notice, and he lost. I think if they fought again, he'd win it. Diego Lopez is for real. He'll be 13th in the rankings here. For him, if you're not going to give him that fight, which they probably won't, Bryce Mitchell, a couple losses in a row, that could be interesting. Giga Chikaze, another interesting fight. Both guys I think are good. Arnold Allen, potentially. We got some interesting fights. Renato Moicano submits Jalen Turner, an upset if you ask me. Turner knocked down Moicano twice in the fight, but he fought back, ends up taking down Jalen Turner, starts to pepper him with a ground and pound, trying to get a submission in, but pins his arms, landing huge shots. Referee has to come and stop the fight. Moicano wins 2 fights in 2 months. We'll move up to top 10 in the lightweight rankings, which is huge for him. Came in 13. We'll move up to 10. Potentially, you could see him and Dan Hooker later in the year. That'd be a fun fight. He also said he wants to fight Paddy Pimblett, which would either one. Love it. But Moicano, back from injury, looks good. Bobby Green dominates Jim Miller. Just said today, Jim Miller broke his hand, 23 stitches, broke a finger on the other hand as well. He got beat to hell, the legend that he is, but Bobby Green just too good, too fast at this stage of their careers. Davison Figueiredo, rear naked choke of Cody No Love. Garbrandt, another victory for him at 135. Possibilities are endless for Figgy because I think he's really, really good. And I would love to see Figueiredo, Henry Cejudo later in the year. Cejudo said he's not retiring. 2 former champions. Cheeto could also make sense. Petr Yan is hurt, so I don't think that's going to happen. But I think Cejudo, Figueiredo would make the most sense. That's all I got. That was a great 300 was truly phenomenal. I loved every second of that event because it was just phenomenal theater. No show tomorrow. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll also be doing a Stanley Cup playoff preview podcast later in the week, so stay tuned for that. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll talk about the results and the results of the playing games on Wednesday. Until then, take care. This is To The Point.